One of the worst nightmares anyone in the media archiving business can face is what I faced there about a month or so ago when I got a bunch of tapes and not one of them would play. Well, I shouldn't say not one. Most of them would not play due to a fault on the recorder that the owner was not aware of. He did try his tapes and his tapes did play, but they wouldn't play on my machine. In fact, they would not play on any of my machines. I actually had to get the machine from the client in order to play his tapes back. A few weeks ago, I had a customer who brought me about 30 VHS tapes of all of his home videos. And as I was digitizing them, I got about halfway through them. They were fine. And then all of a sudden, everything's in black and white. Nothing plays in color, just like this. This is my tape that's playing in black and white. So I contacted the guy and said, hey man, here's a problem with your VCR. It wasn't recording color. And he says, well, no, what are you talking about? He says, they played fine. I said, well, the first few tapes I played just fine. But the rest of them, they're just playing in black and white. So he said, well, no, it worked fine. He said, I watched them. So I told him which tapes played fine. And then he informed me, well, those were tapes that were done on a different machine. At a different time, they were older. The tapes that played fine had come out of his full-size VHS camera. But his camera broke, and he bought a new camera and was recording on a different media. He didn't tell me whether it was 8mm or DV. I'm assuming it probably was 8mm or high 8. And he was copying all the tapes, but he told me that the tapes played fine, that he had just watched them, and there was no problem with the tapes. I said, well, come on over. It doesn't play in color. He suggested that it might be my equipment. I said, come on down. I'll plug your tapes into 10 machines, and they all play with no color. Better still, bring me your machine. He brings me his machine, and his tapes played just fine. I have his machine here. It's an RCA. And I'm not going to show you his tapes, obviously, but I just hooked it up and made a recording, and lo and behold, it plays in color. Watch this. Max. So as you can see, the recording plays fine. This is an SLP because I don't have the remote control to play this, but I don't have the remote, so I can't change the speed. But it did play. It does play its own recordings just fine in color. I'm putting my hand in there just so that we don't get nailed with a bot for copyright. So that's why I'm waving my hand. But as you can see, the picture is playing in color, and there's no problem other than the fact that it's recorded in EP. I had to use his machine to play all of his tapes back so that I could digitize them because none of my machines would play them. So his machine has a problem. And I asked him, I said, did you watch any movies or anything on it? Does it play other tapes in color? And of course, he didn't know because he hasn't used it to play a movie in years, but he was using it to archive all of his camcorder tapes over to VHS. So clearly, this machine has an issue. I tried my tape. It plays in black and white. I tried a pre-recorded tape. It plays in black and white. The only thing it plays in color is it plays the recordings that were made on this machine. So let's take the top off this one and see if we can figure out what the problem is with it. Incidentally, this is my machine now because after transferring his tapes, the fellow that owns it, he said he doesn't want it back. This is an RCA machine, but it's obviously this is made by Panasonic. It's I don't know, the garbage mechanism, as I call it. My favorite. This was the first with the pinch roller that rises up and down. But anyway, I got to talking to the guy and asked him when he noticed that there was problems. And the only clue I got from him, because he never rented any movies. He was telling me that in all the time he's owned the machine, he didn't rent movies. He used it just for time shifting. And when the machine was much newer, I don't know what the date is on this. Let's see if there's a date code on this machine. Looks to be 1989. And he was telling me that in the early 2000s, he had it to the shop that I used to work for, that I left in 2003. He had it in the shop, and they replaced the video heads. And that got me to thinking. This was done after my time. The guy that I worked for hired another guy in there to basically run the service department, and he only stuck around for a couple of years because I think they shut the service department down around 2006. The store closed in 2012, but they kept the service department around for a few years after I left. The fact that this records and plays its own tape in color, to me, tells me that the problem is not an electronic problem. If it was a problem in the color circuit, it would not record or would not play back its own recordings. If the Chroma circuit had a problem, you would not get Chroma at all from anything. But because this unit plays its own recordings in color, it just won't play other recordings in color, and other machines will not play the recordings that this machine makes in color. That is a physical problem. Now, I don't know on PAL machines whether it's the same. I assume that it probably is, but definitely on NTSC, this is the case. I'm going to try to illustrate something before I even get into this. I am assuming I know what the problem already is. We'll find out in a minute. I'll keep you guys in suspense. But let me grab a piece of paper and a pen, and I will try to illustrate how this works and why I think what is wrong is what I think is wrong. Any VCR tech out there already knows what I'm thinking, and they're probably yelling at the screen what they think it is, because anybody who is qualified to work on VCRs that actually understands what's going on in that recording probably already knows what the fault is on here. And it was technician error where this was serviced. Let me grab a piece of paper. I'll kind of try to draw this out, try to make some sense of it for those of you that are following along at home. Just before I do, this is Titanic. As you can see, it plays in beautiful black and white as well. All right, so I've tried to draw a representation of a cross section of tape. Think of this as the LP or EP speed, and this is the SP speed, where the tracks are bigger, because that's exactly what happens when you record in the slower speed. It uses a narrower head and the tracks are laid closer together, and when you're recording in the faster speed, the tracks are much wider. And then you have a control track, which is just a pulse that is gated, that indicates the start of every track. It's just a pulse on the tape. And this is how the machine figures out what speed it's in. When that's playing that tape back, it's picking up this pulse. This is your control track. And it's on the bottom edge of the tape. On the top edge of the tape, you have the linear audio. And for linear stereo, they basically just split this track in two and had a left channel and a right channel. That's the linear stereo. But most machines were just mono. Now, your video tracks are recorded diagonally by the rotating video head, and you've got an A field and you've got a B field. An A field, a B field. A, B, etc. A, B. On NTSC, and I think PAL is probably the same. The difference is PAL, every line of video you invert your chroma by 180 degrees, whereas NTSC didn't do that. NTSC actually didn't invert the color. It just ran like it was. But the problem with videotape is you do invert the color, because on videotape, unlike audio, your recording is not a perpendicular. Your head is not perpendicular to the tape. It is at an angle. One head is at one angle and the other head is at another angle. So if your A field is recording, and on VHS, I think it's 7 degrees. Beta was 6 and VHS was 7, or vice versa, one of the two. Anyway, your video tracks are recorded like this. And on the other track, the other head, the tracks are recorded like this. The reason for that is when you get into the slower speeds, your tracks can actually overlap. So the head width is actually slightly wider than the track itself. Not much, but it is slightly wider. There's no guard bands on VHS or Beta, unlike 3/4 inch, which had a guard band between the two video heads, where there was nothing recorded. And the same with Betacam. For example, there is a guard band between each track that separates each track. So they'd have a video track of space, a video track of space, a video track of space. That separation is there so that you can minimize crosstalk between the two, because there will be some signal that leaks in from the A to the B head. So when the A head is playing this track, there will be some signal that leaks in from the B track, and that is why the heads the tape is recorded at different angles. Now the hi-fi audio, we haven't even touched that yet, but hi-fi audio is recorded as well, but it's recorded at it's recorded on the same layer of tape in VHS. Now Betamax did things differently. Betamax and Betacam, for that matter, used AFM, but on the Betacam Professional, it was recorded by the Chroma head. On your home or consumer Betamax, it was recorded at the same time, but it was recorded by the same head on a different frequency. So your Chroma, your video, your black and white portion is an FM. So luminance is an FM carrier. Chroma is a down converted AM suppressed carrier, because Chroma is suppressed carrier when it's in the video. The Chroma is a suppressed carrier amplitude or double sideband modulated amplitude signal that is modulated into the video at 3.579.545 megahertz for NTSC, 4.43 for PAL. But there's not enough bandwidth on videotape to record the Chroma as it is in its normal form. So what they did is they took the Chroma, they stripped it from the video, and they converted it down to a lower carrier. And in the case of VHS, the Chroma is 629 kilohertz. Beta and 3/4 inch, which is U-matic, is 688 kilohertz. And 8mm and high 8, it's 733 kilohertz. U-matic SP, I think it was 929. It was higher for the 3/4 inch SP, U-matic SP. And those machines could play the low band and the high band tapes. Anyway, more on that. Because the Chroma is converted down, it's converted down to below where the actual carrier is for the luminance, and it's recorded on the tape by the same head at a lower frequency. The problem is, on the lower frequencies, you don't get the same type of isolation between the two angles of the head on the lower frequency. So Chroma has a tendency to spill over much easier between the tracks when playing back your video. So what they did was they inverted the Chroma phase. So on the A track, the Chroma is recorded at 0 degrees, and on the B track, it's negative or positive 180 degrees. They flipped the Chroma to the opposite angle. They flipped it 180 degrees. The reason they did this is because the Chroma signal will be detected by the A head. The B head's chroma will be detected by the A head, but its level will be much lower due to the attenuation through the 14 degrees of separation between the two video heads. The hi-fi audio, which is also recorded in here, is at plus and minus 30 degrees. So the video head, if the A head is plus 6, the audio head on the A field is minus 30, and the B head is minus 6 or 7, and the video is or the hi-fi is plus 30 degrees. That cancels that out, so you don't have that. But in the chroma's low frequency, and it leaks over. So the sneaky way of solving this problem was to invert the color 180 degrees. Okay, you see where I'm getting at? If the head drum is reversed, that's what I'm getting at. You've got the B head playing the A track and the A head playing the B track. The chroma circuit is expecting the chroma to be out of phase 180 degrees. But it's not. And it can't play it. The luminance plays fine. Luminance, no problem. It tracks that up. Nope, it's just an FM signal. It doesn't care. But the chroma, being a double sideband AM modulated, suppressed carrier AM modulated signal, the levels are wrong and it's out of phase. And the chroma circuit, which is expecting it to be on phase, it's expecting this to be at 0 degrees, and it's expecting this one to be 180. That's what it's expecting coming in, and it's going to take this one, and it's going to take this one and invert it. But the problem is it's out by 180, and the result is you get no chroma. When you play your self-recorded tapes, the A is at 180 and the B is at 0. The machine sees it because it's playing its own tapes. It was recorded wrong. The machine can play it just fine. I'm betting that the bonehead that took my job at good old Jack's Radio and TV, long gone now, owner's dead too, so I can say the name of the shop, but I think the bonehead that took my job, well, he didn't take my job, I quit. I think he put the head on backwards, and when the fellow told me that it had been serviced in the mid-2000s, but he had not played any movies, he just used it to record TV shows and play them back, and then he took all of his camcorder tapes and he put them all on VHS. And of course he was able to play them because it was recorded by the same machine. He hadn't tried to play his older VHS camcorder tapes that he'd made with his full-size machine until he brought them to me, and I did his first half a dozen or so tapes that were recorded on his VHS camcorder, and they were fine. When I went to play the more modern tapes that he'd copied from another format, whether it was VHS-C or 8mm, he didn't tell me, I didn't ask, it's just the tapes he copied, he said they wouldn't play. And it all became perfectly clear when he had told me that the head had been replaced on the machine. And there it is. So I bet if I reverse this head and turn it 180 degrees, that this is going to work. So let me just fire up my soldering iron and we will do that. We will remove the head and we will turn it 180 degrees. Now, how someone can make this mistake, I'm pretty sure I remember that it's painted. And I bet you when I take this off, we're going to find white paint on the other side. It's not an easy mistake to make if you're using an OEM head. Some of the aftermarket heads weren't quite as clear, but they still had markings on them. But that's VCR servicing 101. That was one of the first things that they taught me when I was servicing VCRs, is if you put the head on backwards, you won't get any color. So anybody that knew how to service VCRs should have known that. But I guess there's a first for everything. Anyway, long story short, I was able to recover his tapes using his machine, and then he said, keep the machine. So this machine, I think, probably has a few other things wrong. I know it has a few other things wrong with it because the coax connector is broken on the back. I noticed that when I tried to make a test recording, but I'm not going to fix that this time. Maybe we'll deal with that on a future one. I want to see if this machine will actually play back. All right, let's get in here with the solder sucker. And turn off the AC. It's getting expensive. The rate has gone up. It's after 4 o'clock. So try to keep my energy consumption minimized once the rate goes up. Okay, this should just lift right off, which it does, just like that. Oh, look. Oh, look. Oops. Oops. Oh, that's a problem. These screws are not magnetic. Now I got to go fishing for that screw that I just dropped. Where'd it go? I know it's in the bottom, but where? There it is. We'll solder this back down. Solder with an L. Okay, I think I got it. Resoldered. Power the unit up and see if I have color. Better have color. I won't be happy if I don't have color, but I think I'll have color. Alright, load this thing up. I have color. Here we go. So that was the problem. Video head installed backwards. They will go on backwards. If you put them on backwards, you're not going to get color. Simple as that. All right. I'd say we're going to leave it at that. There are other issues with this machine. I know that because when I press the stop button, it shuts down. If I press stop, it doesn't, it just shuts off and does not unload, as you can see. If I press the power button, it'll unload. I'll show you that again. We'll put play. If I want to eject the taper, just press stop and it just shuts off. That'll be another video. We need 2 of them out of this. You guys get any ideas what it is? I have an idea what it might be. Got a couple of ideas what it might be, but they will have to wait for the next one because this one is done as far as it's going to get done on this video. But we'll pick this up and do another video on this one. Try to maximize our content from what we've got at hand. And then once that's done, this machine will just go into storage, I guess. I don't have the remote control for it though, so as far as a machine to use for archiving tapes, this one doesn't have much value to me because I really need a machine that I can adjust the tracking on. And this one here, it doesn't have auto tracking, right? Most of the newer machines had auto tracking. This one does not. It has buttons on the remote control, and I didn't get the remote, so it's going to have to, you know, if it'll play a tape, great. If it won't, then there's a problem. Anyway, thanks for watching. We'll pick this up, and we'll see why this thing's stopping when I hit stop. And maybe a mode switch problem on this. Or it could be a power supply problem. The mode switch appears that it was done at one point. But again, I don't know how long the machine was sitting. From what I understand from the fellow that gave it to me, is it hasn't been used in years. So we'll deal with that on the next installment on this. I'm not even going to put it together. We'll deal with that next. Thanks for watching. We'll catch you in the next one. Bye.